Chapter 906, The Joy of Having Several Partners. With seething rage inside, Boss Huang strode to Tang Xiu and Shuiyu. He already figured out this issue. Shuiyu must have set him up with that pigeon and those two big men who trounced him yesterday, completely playing him. He pointed the duo and hissed in rage, "You two actually dare to pit me, you wretched bastards. This big daddy will change my surname to yours if I don't kill you today. I don't think that you're that stupid, though." Tang Xiu shook his head and smiled. He flipped the menu while shaking his head and smilingly said, "You want to change your family name to ours?" "Nope. We dare not agree with the plea. We haven't planned to have children yet, and there's no way we must have a son, nor grandson all of a sudden, don't you think?" A cunning look flashed in Shuiyu's eyes, and she cooperated with the play. "I don't want it either. Besides, if I had a lustful pervert as a son or grandson, I'd definitely choke him to death." Tang Xiu didn't expect that Shuiyu could say such a vicious strike and glanced at her with a happy smile. He then turned to look at Boss Huang and smilingly said, "Did you hear her? You're not even qualified to become our offspring, so get the hell out. It's not a fun sight if you get choked to death here." Boss Huang's complexion flushed red and shame gleamed in his eyes. His glare at Tang Xiu and Shuiyu was as though he could murder them. He laughed in a fury and said, "Good. Just great. You guys have planted the seed, but just wait. This is not over yet." After saying that, he turned back to his dining table, picking up the briefcase and grabbing a phone on the table, striding away without finishing the dishes. Tang Xiu watched his back as he left. He then shook his head and said, "He becoming a business owner actually proves his ability, no matter how mediocre it is. Pity that he has such bad conduct and is driven by his lust, those will give him a bad end in the future. All right, let's drop the subject about him, shall we? It's just a waste of our time." "Got it," nodded Shuiyu gently with a smile. In her eyes, Tang Xiu was too excellent and too dazzling, so she couldn't glance at other men anyway. As day replaced the night, Tang Xiu and Shui came again to Li Chang's house. After Tang Xiu pulled out the silver needles from Li Chang's wife, Luo Yu, and checked up on her condition, he let out a happy smile and said, "There's nothing serious with her anymore. She only needs to rest to convalesce for the next 2 or 3 months. I guarantee her health will be the same as a normal healthy person in 2+ months. She must keep taking the herbal medicine in my prescription, however, as its efficacy is not only to nourish the heart but also to treat kidney deficiency and kidney failure." "Brother Tang, can my wife really be like other people in the future?" asked Li Chang hurriedly. "Then, can she bear a child also?" "That's naturally not a problem," said Tang Xiu smilingly. Li Chang looked excited and said, "That's great. We have literally gone everywhere to seek medical help. Each place concluded that she hadn't only had contracted heart disease, but also had problems with the function of her kidney, so she couldn't have a child. Brother Divine Dr. Tang, it's all thanks to you." "Thank you." Tang Xiu waved and said, "Dispense the polite remarks with me. It's enough for you to push that Boss Huang to the pit and then come to work in my magnificent Tang Corporation." "I give you my word that I'll accomplish that," replied Li Chang firmly. Knock, knock. A knock was heard at the door and someone called out from the outside, "Hey, brother. Are you at home? Please open the door." Li Chang was in a daze, but he immediately replied with happy surprise, "That's my younger sister. She's back." Striding fast to open the door, he looked at the tall girl standing outside with a beaming smile as he greeted her, "Xinjie. I never thought you would be back this quickly. Hurry up and get inside. We got some honored guests at home." "Honored guests? Who are they?" The tall girl smiled in response and moved quickly inside. After she came to the living room and clearly saw Tang Xiu there, she was slightly stunned and called out with incredulity, "Tang Xiu? Why are you at my house?" Tang Xiu also looked at who just arrived and likewise showed a strange expression. "Is this your family, Li Xinjie?"
Yeah,
answered Li Xinjie. Li Chang and Luo Yu, who sat on the sofa, exchanged a puzzled look. After some time, the former asked with a slightly astonished expression, "You also know my sister, Brother Tang?" "Well, we both are students at Shanghai University," answered Tang Xiu with a light smile. "No way, right?" Li Chang was amazed and said, "Your name is known far and wide as the owner of the magnificent Tang Corporation, yet you're still a student of Shanghai University? You didn't just make fun of me, did you?" "Tang Xiu didn't kid you, brother," interjected Li Xinjie. "He's a freshman at Shanghai University like me. We'll be sophomores after this summer." Tang Xiu also smiled and said, "What's wrong? I can be the owner of the magnificent Tang Corporation, but I can't be a student at Shanghai University? Our forefathers have said that there's no end to learning. Only by learning more when one is still young will he be able to go further in the future and have greater achievements. This line also needs to be presented to you. You will join Magnificent Tang Corporation in the future, even if you're a sales expert. You still must work and learn at the same if you want to move fast and climb higher." I know. Li Chang firmly nodded and replied with all seriousness. Li Xinjie, on the other hand, was shocked and asked in surprise, "You just said that my brother will work for your magnificent Tang Corporation, Tang Xiu? That reminds me, how did you guys get acquainted? Why did you come to Chong City?" The series of the question made Tang Xiu smile and he replied, "There was something I had to do here, and I just happened to meet your brother. He's definitely a good salesman, so I want him to work for my company." Li Xinjie instantly understood and happily said, "Thanks a bunch, Tang Xiu. I know that my brother is great." Li Chang let out a hollow laugh in response. He glanced at his wife, Luo Yu, and said hurriedly, "Xinjie, we must thank Brother Tang properly since he has cured your sister-in-law's heart disease. He's our family's great benefactor." Li Xinjie zoned out and immediately said with joy, "Sis's heart disease has been cured? That's great. Thank you, Tang Xiu. Thanks a lot. Damn, I should be the one to blame here. I already knew that you're a famous divine doctor, yet I've never once asked you to help treat my sister-in-law. It's all right, please don't say any thanks again." Tang Xiu waved and said, "That's right. Let me introduce you to her, Shuiyu. She also is a student at Shanghai University and is Mu Weiniang's roommate." Mu Weiniang? Shuiyu's expression slightly changed, yet she concealed the surprised expression on her face. Li Xinjie herself had noticed the suffocating beauty of Shuiyu right as she came home. Although she had been suppressing her suspicion and doubt inside her heart, she now realized that Tang Xiu definitely had an extraordinary relationship with this woman named Shuiyu, given how Tang Xiu introduced her. "You are," said Li Xinjie while hesitating. Tang Xiu was silent for a moment and said, "She's my woman." "What did you say?" "If she's your woman, then, what about Weiniang?" exclaimed Li Xinjie. "She knows about her too," said Tang Xiu. Disbelief covered Li Xinjie's face and she asked incredulously, "Weiniang knows her? Does she also know Weiniang?" Shuiyu stretched her hand out and calmly interjected, "I know Mu Weiniang. She's Tang Xiu's nominal, true girlfriend, the most beautiful flower of Shanghai University as well as the first belle of Beijing. She's also a very outstanding woman." Li Xinjie's lips squirmed and he couldn't help but ask, "Then, why are you?" Shuiyu calmly cut her off, "What you want to ask is, why am I still willing to be with Tang Xiu, right? Well, I can answer that. I chose and am willing to be with him, more so that I want to be with him for the rest of my life. I'm not the only one like this, but also his other women note that there's also Mu Weiniang, yet they still are dead set on being with him." You guys, Li Xinjie was shocked. She truly couldn't understand this celestial maiden-like beauty whatsoever. Tang Xiu himself didn't want to engage more in such a topic and remarked, "By the way, I've done what I must do, so please remember what I told you. You must pay attention to rest and convalesce in the next 2 or so months. And keep taking that herbal medicine for 3 months. We will take our leave since we still have other matters to tend to. Shortly after, Tang Xiu left with Shuiyu. Inside the hall, Luo waved and called Li Xinjie to her side. She took her hand and asked, Xinjie, you seem to be very familiar with Divine Dr. Tang, aren't you? How could I possibly be unfamiliar with him, sis? His true girlfriend is my dorm mate and we're like sisters, answered Li Xinjie with a forced smile. It's just... I didn't expect him to also have some other women besides Wei Ning. More so that this woman of his is no worse than Wei Ning, be it her appearance, stature, or bearings. For a short while, Luo Yu was silent before she shook her head and said, Xinjie, you must remember that his affairs are his, not ours. Even if you do have a deep friendship with this girl named Mu Weining, it's best not to involve yourself in the matter, else you'll end up the one embarrassed. Li Xinjie nodded without a word. The next day, Tang Xiu and Shuiyu just checked out of the Chang City Hotel and walked out of the hotel's entrance. However, Tang Xiu didn't expect that there were some people with outlandish attire in the vicinity, looking like small gangsters. Trouble comes knocking, whispered Shuiyu. They might be troubles for others, but it's nothing much to us, said Tang Xiu lightly. All right, let's go. We'll head to the Green Lake Agricola directly. The play we'll watch should unfold tonight. Creak. A Mercedes-Benz off-road car stopped in front of them. Tang Xiu and Shuiyu directly boarded it. Tang Xiu watched those gangsters in the vicinity move quickly, including their 2 black SUVs behind them. After watching, he let out a sneer and ordered, Jing, drive slowly and let those bunches follow us. Would you like to notice Shui Sha and He Xiang in order to deal with them, boss? Asked Jing. No need. Tang Xiu shook his head and said, that man surnamed Huang wants to play now, so we'll accompany him. A major event was bound to unfold at the Green Lake Agricola. Those who would come to the party should be powerful characters, including some martial art experts. If this Huang guy were to direct his henchmen to rush into the Green Lake Agricola, then a fun yet awkward predicament would unfold for them. You know, Tang Xiu. That smile of yours looks rather insidious and sinister, said Shuiyu smilingly. Is it? Why don't I feel it so, though? Asked Tang Xiu with a strange smile. It's obviously there. I seem to see that Huang pervert having some bad luck soon from your smile, said Shuiyu smilingly. There's something I want to ask though. Will cleaning him up now affect your plan? After all, you wish to have Li Cheng work for Magnificent Tang Corporation, to begin with. Chapter 907, Cannon Fodders. Tang Xiu himself was very concerned about the life and death boss Huang. After all, Li Cheng would follow him soon. Yet, an idea suddenly popped up inside his mind after he found this man wanted to retaliate against him. It was a good idea and it would kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Nothing will be affected. Tang Xiu lit up a cigarette and looked out the window. Then he spoke again, that Huang guy won't die, just taught a lesson at most. However, those gangsters under him won't be as lucky as him. Quickly, the Mercedes-Benz was just a few kilometers away from Green Lake Agricola. Jing, who was driving, noticed Mo in the front on the roadside, so he immediately stopped the car on the side of the road. Boss, the Green Lake Agricola is now temporarily closed, respectfully reported Mo to Tang Xiu while standing outside the window. How's the situation in there? Asked Tang Xiu. Hidden killing intent, no less, answered Mo. Song Donglai, Ao Wei, Gongquang and 64 experts trained by them are all concealing themselves. While there's also another kung fu master surnamed Han who came yesterday. This man, added with the Song Donglai trio, adds up to a total of 68 people there. The entirety of the Agricola is in a battle formation. It's now easy to enter but difficult to come out. Get in the car. Tang Xiu lightly nodded and said, let's go inside. Mo complied and, after he sat shotgun, the Mercedes-Benz SUV drove toward Green Lake Agricola. As they entered the wide road, the entrance of the venue soon came into view, but there was no usual lively scene this time. Even those security guards who were responsible for guard duty were all gone. Tang Xiu unleashed his spiritual sense right as he got out from the car and covered the surrounding area of 200+ meters. Within his observation range, he saw tens of stalwart men armed with weapons hiding in hidden corners, including some of them who had noticed their arrival. They carry guns. Tang Xiu didn't expect that Song Donglai's men would have guns, and some may have sniper rifles. Inside the range of his spiritual sense coverage, there were a total of 4 snipers hidden in every direction, each with their guns aimed towards the gate. "Someone is coming, boss." Jing, who followed behind Tang Xiu, suddenly spoke. Tang Xiu nodded and looked at Song Donglai, who came from a nearby location towards his position. He only came alone without his 2 friends. Not even his men were seen. "Mr. Tang," shouted Song Donglai respectfully as he came before Tang Xiu with a smile. "You have a good arrangement here." Tang Xiu smiled and said, "This battle array formation is quite interesting." "You're kidding me, Mr. Tang," said Song Donglai with a forced smile. "It's all we can do while we know nothing about how many people from the Lien family will come. If too many of them come here or the ancestor of Lien family is the one who comes, I'm afraid that we'll fall into a dire strait. If Mr. Tang is able to, would you?" Tang Xiu raised his hand to interrupt him and shook his head. "I have no enmity with the Liens, neither do I have any reason to get rid of them. The enmity between you and them are yours to resolve. I only came here to be a witness and will not participate in the fight." "Mr. Tang, you," said Song Donglai said bitterly. Tang Xiu interrupted him once again and calmly said, "Actually, there will be no advantages for you guys if I act and help you. You guys want to chance upon that opportunity, that is, to be genuine Taoist cultivators, which is something you must rely on yourselves for. If you rely on me and have the Liens dealt with easily, you will lack this sense of tempering. It will lead to problems in your mind state later. Your battle with the Liens now is yours to take on." State of mind? A battle and struggle with oneself? Song Donglai faintly realized the notion of what Tang Xiu wanted to express. After being silent for a while, he said, "If so, could you please comply with one request of ours, Mr. Tang? It's a very simple issue. If we brothers are all killed here today, could send our bones back to our families? Fallen leaves eventually return to their roots, and our families are the final resting place for us to sleep. I give you my word." Tang Xiu nodded. Song Donglai gratefully looked at Tang Xiu and suddenly said, "Mr. Tang, if we brothers are all killed in this battle, we'd like you to have this green lake agricola. It's a token of our gratitude for your word." "I can't." Tang Xiu shook his head and said, "A man may love riches, but he must obtain them in a proper and just way. If we are enemies, I can kill you and take possession of your property. But I can't accept your offer. If you guys all die in battle, the Green Lake Agricola will be your Song family's industry, no less. Nevertheless, I wish for you to survive. I hope you can snatch that slim chance of survival to enter the Tao through martial arts and become a true cultivator." "Donglai will always bear Mr. Tang's instructions in mind," said Song Donglai respectfully. "Although I will not intervene in the issues between both you and them, I don't mind to have a deal with you on the premise that you can survive and successfully break through the qi refining stage," said Tang Xiu with a smile. "What transaction?" asked Song Donglai, confused. "I'll sell you a cultivation technique for cultivators," said Tang Xiu smilingly. Song Donglai's body trembled violently and an ecstatic look filled in his eyes. He then hurriedly asked, "Mr. Tang, so long as we can break through the qi refining stage as you told me, we will buy that cultivation art regardless of the price." "All right. You can continue your preparation." Tang Xiu said with a smile, "It's improper for us to stay here since this place is about to become a battlefield. But keep my words in mind, I won't intervene in the battle between your side and the Liens, but neither of you can affect ordinary people. Else, I won't hesitate to eliminate anyone who becomes a threat to public safety. Understood, replied Song Donglai with a serious expression. Tang Xiu put his hand around Shuiyu's shoulder and embraced her as he walked towards the depth of the Agricola. With Xue Sha and He Xiong following him, the group of 6 crossed the venue and came to the edge of a hill. The blood python array may be powerful to others, but it was full of flaws and loopholes in Tang Xiu's eyes. He brought his people outside of the array easily, and they quickly came to halfway up the hillside several hundreds of meters away. This place is quite good. As they came to a relatively flat spot halfway up the hill, Tang Xiu's gaze swept over the few large blue stones. He immediately jumped to one of them and looked down towards the green Lake Agricola at the foot of the hill with his hands behind his back. Those people who have been tailing us should have arrived outside Green Lake Agricola. What are you going to do next? Asked Shuiyu. Then I surely must find a savior for Boss Huang, said Tang Xiu smilingly. Having said that, he took his handset out and dialed Li Chong's cell number. After the latter picked up his call, he said, contact the owner of Green Lake Agricola, Song Donglai, now. Tell him that some people just arrived at his farming venue and to not stop him. Take them to some spacious hall and provide them with dishes and liquor. Consider it as the cannon fodder I gift them. Do remember, your first priority after you come here is to protect the safety of Boss Huang and gain his trust. I must go there now, asked Li Chang. Yup. Get here now, said Tang Xiu with a smile. At the gate of Green Lake Agricola, 2 black SUVs were been parked outside. In the passenger seat of the car in front was a stalwart middle-aged man with a terrifying scar on his left cheek. He was now frowning and took his mobile phone out. After dialing a cell number and getting his call got picked up, he said, these people just entered Green Lake Agricola, boss. Don't alert them and wait for me there. Boss Huang's deep voice came replying from the phone. After more than half an hour, a black Audi and 2 gold-colored vans arrived. Boss Huang then came out of the Audi and asked, where are those bastards now? They are inside and have yet to come out, boss, answered the scarred-faced big man. Boss Huang sneered, I've visited this Green Lake Agricola a few times and this road is the only path to come in and out of this place. Since they are still inside, I'll kill them today. Wait and be ready to move. But keep my order. Trash the men to death but don't ever touch the woman. I'm gonna fuck her unless she does 108 poses for me. The scar-faced stalwart man grinned, if you get tired with your playing, can you give her to us to play? I saw that woman myself, and damn, she's the best beauty I've ever seen in my life. Boss Huang shot him a glance before he took a cigarette and lit it up. After taking 2 puffs, he nodded and said, wait till I get done and am tired of her, then you can have your wish. Several minutes later, Boss Huang entered the Agricola with more than 20 gangsters armed with clubs. But something puzzled him. It was almost noon now, and the business should be bustling here. So how come there were no guests right now? Something's wrong here. When he walked past the corridor and came to the spacious hall inside, his pace abruptly came to a halt and he shouted in a deep tone. Something's wrong? What is it, boss? Asked the scar-faced big man, confused. Boss Huang carefully observed the situation in the surroundings and said in a heavy voice, don't you see? We've been inside for a few minutes, yet we haven't seen anyone's shadows whatsoever. I told you that I've been here a couple of times. This place has good business, with a lot of guests, security guards at the gate, and many staffers. But now, there's nobody here. The scar-faced stocky man's heart suddenly thumped upon hearing it. He then immediately asked, could it be that we entered their trap, boss? Boss Huang took a deep breath and immediately replied with a cautious face, let's get the hell out of here first and head outside. At this moment, Song Donglai came with the middle-aged manager Wang. After seeing Boss Huang and his men, he smiled and called out with a crisp voice, aren't you Boss Huang? What brings you here today? But, what kind of song are you singing today? I don't think I've offended you, and yet, how can you bring so many men here? Do you want to smash my Agricola or something? Boss Huang himself knew who Song Donglai was. He was well aware that this man also had some abilities and influence in Chang City, so he let out a dry smile and said, "You misunderstood me, Boss Song. How could I take my men to smash your turf? It's because some punks were running to your place and we came to pursue them." Song Donglai intentionally showed a sudden understanding look and said, "Ah, I know who you are talking about. I only have a group of guests today. It's just that they seem to have some unexpected accident all of a sudden and then left." Chapter 908, Invisible Infiltrating Attack. Boss Huang was dumbfounded. He watched Song Donglai, but his expression and tone didn't seem to show that he was lying. He hesitated and turned to look at the scar-faced big man. The latter hastily said, "I dare swear that those people have never left this place, boss. We stayed outside the gate ever since they entered. If what you said is true, that the Agricola only has one entrance, then they must be still here. Those guests left as early as half an hour ago." Song Donglai shook his head and said, "They left their cars here and hurried back behind the hill. They looked very flustered though. They just ran." Boss Huang was stunned yet again, as well as the scar-faced man, both at a loss of what to do. After a long period of time, Boss Huang then looked around before he asked, "Boss Song, this place of yours is kinda different from its usual vibe today. There used to be a good business here, as it was full of patrons at lunch if I recall correctly. How come it looks deserted today? Not only are there no patrons, but also none of the service people." Song Donglai happily said with a smile, "Boss Huang, you truly are a very informed man. Don't you know that I have suspended my business for 3 days? I'm going all out on prepping the next big plan of mine." "You have a big plan? What is it?" asked Boss Huang with a puzzled expression. "I've been occupied by many issues, so I didn't have the time to visit and dine here." Song Donglai clapped and smilingly said, "Arriving early isn't as good as arriving at the most opportune moment. It's a truly good fortune of mine to have you come here today, Boss Huang. My big plan is that our chef here has been studying new recipes, resulting in quite the achievements recently. I believe that once the new menu is introduced to our patrons, everyone will greatly welcome it." Boss Huang smiled and said, "Ah. Then why would my visit today be your great fortune? It is indeed a happy event to have a new menu, though." "Well, everyone knows who you are, don't they, Boss Huang?" Dong Songlai said, "You're a big shot who literally has tasted all kinds of delicacies. We have just researched this new product successfully, and then you happen to come here. Isn't this good fortune for me? I was worrying that nobody would be eager to taste it, yet you finally came. So be it then. Please stay and try our new dishes along with these brothers you brought today. You can't rest your worry about the expense, it's all on the house. Just taste the dishes and tell us your opinion." "What?" Boss Huang looked at Song Donglai with a dumbstruck expression. Never did it occur to him that he would run into a situation like this. He came to Green Lake Agricola this time to enact revenge, yet he ended up unable to find his enemy at all, instead getting to freely dine and drink here? He turned his head to look at the more than 20 men behind him whose faces looked enthusiastic. He hesitated for a while before he nodded and said, "Boss Song, we can't refuse your kindness for inviting us. Since that punk and prostitute have already run away, then I'll find them the next day to settle the account." "All right, please follow me to the dining hall then," said Song Donglai with a smile. "You can wait there first while waiting for the dishes from the kitchen. I'll tell the staff to prepare and send them over." "Ah, that's right. Since Boss Huang has greatly helped me deal with my issue today, I also have an unopened God's Nectar bottle here. Shall the two of us friends drink 2 cups of the wine later?" "God's Nectar?" Boss Huang's spirit soared and he gulped down without him realizing. He nodded without hesitation and said, "Great, that'd be great. I love God's Nectar wine. Chang City. On the road dozens of kilometers away from Green Lake Agricola were 6 Wrangler SUVs speeding up toward the venue, only leaving the deafening sounds of their roaring engines behind. Inside the third car, Lianbai sat with a cigarette clamped between his lips. His eyes were gleaming with killing intent, and the bushy scenery that brushed past outside didn't attract him enough to even spare a glance. The enemy had killed his younger brother. This blood feud was absolutely irreconcilable. As the patriarch of the Lian family, Lianbai had gone through many hardships and difficulties in life, yet the most difficult thing to bear was to see his younger brother die at the hands of those bastards. He could have acted outrageously if these people were just ordinary folks, but these 3 enemies were not. The Ao, Song, and Gong families. Lianbai threw the cigarette butt out of the window. The killing intent that already filled his heart was raging stronger. I'll first remove Aoi, Song Donglai, and Gong Quang. I've spent quite a lot to bring out the 2 ancestors who have always been in seclusion for many years, as well as many experts of the family. I swear I'm not a human if I can't slaughter the 3 of you. With the 3 of you dealt with, then your 3 families' turn will come. My Lian family isn't afraid of any of your families. But, I can't face the 3 of them at the same time. Just wait for me to build up my force. I'll root out your 3 families by bloodshed one day. Suddenly, a blazing flame emitted out of his palm. The egg-sized flame sent out intense heat and caused the temperature inside the SUV to rise instantly. Patriarch, called out Lian Peng, sitting in the passenger seat, in a low voice. Lianbai looked at him and immediately retracted the flame back. He then asked in a deep voice, "How far are we from our destination?" "More than 30 kilometers, answered Lian Peng. Lianbai was silent for a moment and then slowly said, "Keep in mind what I told you. Spare no attention to anyone if you're in danger and give your all to escape as fast as possible. I've been feeling a bit uneasy and restless recently. It's like there's a trap waiting for us." "This is indeed a trap actually," said Lian Peng. "However, traps also have differences in scale. If the trap is too small and feeble to deal with huge prey, then it will be useless. We've invited the 2 ancestors to come out this time. Those 3 will surely meet their maker even if they have the ability to fly." Lianbai was silent for a moment. He then slowly said, "Yet, we can't be careless. Xiaoya is a new face, so just let him go to scout ahead and get some news. With his abilities, those who can catch him are far and between even if he does run into problems. Xiaoya is indeed a genius for practicing the shadow art." Lian Peng said with a smile, "Even if Song Donglai's place is ridden with crisis and dangers, it won't be a problem for him." Quickly, the 6 cars parked a few kilometers away from Green Lake Agricola before a young man clad in a black training suit and black long sword came out from the second car. He looked around before quickly dashing towards Green Lake Agricola. He was Xiaoya, a genius of the Lian family had been training since he was a child due to his special abilities. Through inhuman training, he had transformed into a man who possessed terrifying abilities in assassination, tracing, and investigation. He even had taken an assassination mission from abroad and earned the nickname of Revenant Shadow in just 3 years, propelling himself to a spot in the top 20 hitmen worldwide. A few minutes later, Xiaoya was closing in towards Green Lake Agricola. His figure suddenly swayed a few times and flickered before it disappeared under the sunny day, leaving only rippling fluctuations in the air which indicated that he had easily entered the venue. "It's really a trap." Xiaoya continued to appear in the hidden corners of the Agricola as he saw more than a dozen experts hiding there. He quickly grasped the general situation in the site as well as its interior. Right as he was about to lurk away from the place, however, his complexion suddenly changed. "What the fuck is this?" An invisible energy shield blocked his way out. Inside a hidden room in the depths of Green Lake Agricola, Aoi's expression greatly changed and he shouted in a deep voice, "Go out and inspect the outside quickly. Go see who the other party is. Someone wants to leave the blood python array." "Yes." The four stocky big men rushed out of the room at the same time. The quartet searched for 10 minutes, yet they couldn't find the sign of anyone who was attempting to leave. "There's nobody here, boss," one of the stocky men reported using a walkie-talkie. "Someone's definitely attempting to leave the site," replied Ao Wei in a heavy voice. The blood python array was touched and he's still constantly attacking the energy shield created by the array. "Do a careful search and assign more men to your team. You must find this person." "Understood." The number of men increased to more than 20 in search now. Yet, no matter how hard they looked for the infiltrator, they couldn't even find his trace. Gong Quan silently appeared at the Agricola's gate with a dagger wielded backhandedly. A cold gleam flickered in his eyes as he observed the surroundings. Suddenly, there was turbulence from the rippling air a few meters away from him, causing his expression to change. Almost without hesitation, he dashed toward the rippling air as though an arrow released from a bowstring. "Die." The dagger swept over without a specific target. But after Gong Quan waved it for several seconds, a bloody trail suddenly appeared out of thin air. In a flash moment after, Xiaoya in a black exercise suit appeared and, at the same time, threw 2 darts in his hands to Gong Quan's glabella and throat. Shit! Gong Quan himself possessed astonishing strength. After all, he had already broken through the martial art grandmaster level. He could sense that danger approached him and he stiffly moved lightning fast half a meter to the side, avoiding his glabella and throat getting pierced by the darts. Yet, due to the lack of a warning of an attack, the dart still scratched his cheek and left a wound. "Who are you?" shouted Gong Quan while glaring at Xiaoya after he flashed back more than 7 meters away. Xiao Yan frowned deeply. But he disdainfully looked at Gong Quan before his figure suddenly disappeared without a trace. His speed was very fast, and he pushed deeper into the Agricola site hastily in the absence of Gong Quan's ability to see him. Invisibility? Damn. Everyone, listen. Pay attention to your surroundings. One bastard has infiltrated the place. He has the ability to stay invisible. In a flash, most of the people in the entire site heard his shout. Inside the dining room, Boss Huang and his more than 20 henchmen were waiting for the dishes and wine to be delivered, yet not even one had been sent to them, causing him to be a bit displeased. Who's shouting? The scar-faced big man heard the shout, but he couldn't hear it clearly, so he immediately asked with a confused face. It seems like someone is yelling, but I can't hear what he shouted, replied Boss Huang curiously. It's really weird. This Agricola today is truly a bit strange. Chapter 909, 9 Fetuses of 100 Ghosts Streamer. Hundreds of meters away from the flat open space halfway up the hillside, Tang Xiu calmly watched the situation in Green Lake Agricola with his arms crossed behind his back. Others may not be able to see clearly, but he could very clearly see the short-lived fight between Gong Quan and Xiaoya. Invisibility art? He didn't expect that there was such a sophisticated invisibility technique on Earth that even he himself was unable to notice how the youth clad in black sneaked into the Green Lake Agricola. Behind him, Mo frowned and said in a deep voice, "That's the Revenant Shadow, boss." Tang Xiu turned his head and curiously asked, "Do you know him?" "This guy's appearance matches with the intel report I once read." Mo nodded and said, "And his invisibility technique is identical with the Revenant Shadow's. He can disappear and appear out of thin air. This man is ranked in the world's top 20 assassins list. A cold-blooded beast that has left a record of inhumane massacres in Southeast Asia and some parts of Africa. He's just any other lunatic killers. He doesn't only kill the target of his mission, but also massacres innocent people wantonly. As far as I know, the number of innocent victims who have died under his hands has exceeded 1,000. Tang Xiu's complexion turned cold and he asked, "So, he's the Lien family's man as well?" "I don't know about that." Mo shook his head and said, "His origin is very mysterious. Even the assassin organization he once belonged to never knew the true details about him. It's like he just appeared out of thin air, wantonly did the slaughters in various countries around the world, and then disappeared without a trace a few years later. Tang Xiu nodded in response and no longer spoke. Inside Green Lake Agricola, Xiaoya's whole face was grim. Even though he activated his invisibility technique and hid in the hidden spot, he couldn't help but feel restless. He used to be killing people wantonly, yet he had never been as fearful as he was now. It was because he found that this agritourism venue was too bizarre. He could smoothly come inside, but he couldn't leave at all. What the hell is that energy shield exactly? Xiaoya looked at the corner of the wall a dozen meters away from him with two stalwart men with machetes vigilantly looking around, though they were particularly suppressed their aura. He didn't attack those two stocky men, since there were 6 experts from the other 2 directions hiding, ready to ambush. Once he killed those 2 big men, those from the other 2 directions would discover him immediately. Through his observation, he could tell that these enemies were not too strong. Yet somehow, he was restless and frightened. It was as if there was some terrifying thing was staring at him somewhere. As if it was in waiting to strike him at any time. I must get out of this place and find a way to inform the patriarch. Otherwise, any of family members who rashly rush over will probably be wiped out. A few kilometers away from Green Lake Agricola. The 6 SUVs had parked on the roadside, and Lian Bai was now smoking. His eyes kept flashing from time to time and apparently ruminating over some issues. Bai. 2 white-haired old men came. They had a suffocating aura that exuded out of their tall bodies as they walked with very stable footsteps. Lian Bai quickly threw the cigarette butt and reverently replied, "Ancestors." The Lian family's 2 ancestors were called Lian Wentian and Lian Wenxin. The former then asked, "What's the situation? You already know where they are, why haven't you left?" "I've sent Xiaoya to Green Lake Agricola to scout ahead," said Lian Bai. "He should be able to easily find out the situation there given his abilities. However, he has been there for a while without returning yet. All the elite forces of our family have come out this time. Why are you so careful just to deal with those brats of the several families under the occult sect?" questioned Lian Wentian apathetically. "I tell you, just go and directly behead them in an irresistible destructive manner. You also know that we must know our enemies and ourselves to be ever victorious in battle, ancestor," said Lian Bai quickly. "I have no doubt that we can completely neutralize these bastards. But I'm also the family's head, so I must consider the members of our family. We can make a better operation plan after we grasp our enemy's situation, so as to reduce the losses of some of our family members." Lian Wentian thought for a while before he nodded and said, "What you said makes sense. We're all aware of Xiao Ya's ability. Since he hasn't yet returned, that means that Green Lake Agricola is not a simple situation either. All right, let's wait then. We'll directly storm over if Xiaoya hasn't returned in 10 minutes. Lian Bai pondered about it and then said, "Then we'll rely on you, ancestor." Lian Wenxin, who kept his silence the whole time, suddenly interjected with his cold voice, "My 9 fetuses of 100 ghost streamer still lacks 39 souls. If the number of enemies is less than 39, you must catch and give me some commoners. I don't want to come out from seclusion just for the sake of dealing with some trivial things like your enmity." Lian Bai was shaken inwardly, but he still respectfully replied, "You can rest assured, ancestor. I'll definitely help to collect 39 souls for you. Each will be done as per your custom, tormenting and killing them afterward." Lian Wenxin nodded with satisfaction before he praised, "It's truly a wise decision to entrust our Lian family to be helmed by you. You have to be tough and go all out if you want our family to be the strongest one in the occult sect. So long as the family can become strong, even if we wantonly slaughter and turn the world upside down, what about it?" "I understand," replied Lian Bai respectfully. More than 10 minutes passed by. The Lian family's people drove the 6 SUVs towards the Green Lake Agricola even though Xiaoya hadn't come back yet. It was because the 2 ancestors had spoken, So Lianbai decided to launch the attack even if he was still a bit concerned and worried. They believed that every trick and scheme was futile in the face of absolute power. As long as they were powerful enough, even if the Green Lake Agricola had a huge trap waiting for them, it wouldn't pose a threat to them. At present, inside the inner hall of Green Lake Agricola, Li Chang, who had arrived in a hurry, accompanied Boss Huang with a beaming, smiling face. The latter, however, was in a foul mood. He probably recalled how he had been beaten the day before yesterday, so he gave a cold shoulder and face to Li Chang the whole time. Boss Song, when will your newly created dishes be delivered, exactly? We've been waiting for a long time and we can't wait forever here, can we? Shouted Boss Huang with a dissatisfied and unhappy expression as he saw Song Donglai enter the hall. Soon. They will be coming soon and your wait will be over soon, Boss Huang, replied Song Donglai with a smile.
Ah.
You're coming too, young Chang? Do you also know Boss Huang? Li Chang himself had discussed the plan with Song Donglai on the phone, so he played his script. Of course I know Boss Huang, cousin. He's my big boss, to begin with.
Ah.
That's right. Since my boss has come to dine here, then you have to give at least, well, 40% discount. Song Donglai chuckled and crisply replied, today is on the house, mind you. You both, interjected Boss Huang with astonishment. Young Chang is my younger cousin, replied Song Donglai with a smile. Boss Huang suddenly understood. His expression when he looked at Li Chang turned more at ease. He then nodded and said, Li Chang, take that sales contract out if you brought it. I'll sign it. Li Chang took the briefcase and took out the proposed sales contract from the inside. He then placed it in front of Boss Huang and smilingly said, I've already brought it, boss. As long as you sign it, I'll give it my current company and resign after I receive my money. Then I'll work for you afterward. For a while, however, Boss Huang hesitated. He shot a glance at Song Donglai first before he finally signed his name on the contract. Ring, ring, ring. Song Donglai's mobile phone suddenly rang in his pocket. He grabbed it and picked up the call. His complexion suddenly changed and his breathing turned short as he said, Young Chang, quickly take Boss Huang to leave this place. Hurry up. This place is going to be full of danger soon. Li Chang pretended to look puzzled and asked, What do you mean, cousin? How come some dangers are coming to your place? The society is governed by law nowadays. Are there some people coming here to make trouble for you? Spare the chit-chat, will you? Song Donglai pretended to be angry, just hurry up and leave this place with Boss Huang. Otherwise, you won't be able to escape later. Boss Huang stood up and asked with knitted brows, What exactly happened, Boss Song? We've been waiting here and we are yet to have our grub whatsoever. I just received the news that my mortal enemies unknowingly have found that I've been hiding here for decades, smiled Song Donglai with a forced, bitter smile. I didn't expect that they would find me either. Regardless, you gotta hurry up and leave this place. My enemy has a substantial background. Boss Huang still looked hesitant before he nodded and said, If that's the case, then we won't disturb you any longer. We'll come back to patron your place again some other day, Boss Song. Having said that, he called out his group of more than 20 men and quickly walked outside. Just as they came to the parking lot, however, they saw 6 SUVs come at them. Song Donglai, who followed behind with 4 stalwart men, also saw the approaching SUVs, and shouted, Young Chang, bring Boss Huang back quickly. Damn it, how come they got here so fast? Li Chang instantly grabbed Boss Huang's hand upon hearing it and ran towards Song Donglai. But more than 20 henchmen hooligans exchanged dismayed glances. However, there was no look of fear on their faces since they often fight in the brawl. Such an occasion was like a regular meal to them. Not to mention that the arriving people were not their enemies. Even if they had enmity with them, they were not afraid since their sides' numbers were larger. Creak. After the SUV stopped, Lianbai came out of the car in strides. His eyes were full of killing intent as they fell on Song Donglai. He tightly gripped his fists instantly and ferociously shouted, "Song Sanuva bitch. I've been looking for you for 21 years and finally found you. The blood feud of killing my younger brother, the hatred of killing my clansmen, I'll pay you back 100-fold today." Song Donglai watched more than 20 people come out of the 6 cars. His expression enormously changed when he saw the 2 ancestors of Lian family. As more than 20 people dashed from the interior of farmhouse, he shouted in a deep voice, "You also know what happened in the past, Lian Bai. Your younger brother was at fault and in the wrong. He was guilty of doing evil deeds and slaughtering people wantonly. We, 3 brothers, happened to witness his evil doings, and naturally couldn't stand idly by. He deserved his death for the crimes he had done." Lianbai strode over and ferociously yelled, "Nobody has the right to criticize and order my Lian family of how we do things, ever. In short, the blood feud between us is way too deep and must be put to an end today. But be rest assured. I won't kill you immediately, I will torture you. Your fate will be worse than death and I'll offer your soul to my ancestors." Chapter 9-10, Soul Devourer. Song Donglai was restless inwardly, while fear gleamed in his eyes. The Lian family was indeed under the occult sect and they looked like they did things in a just and correct way, yet they secretly committed evil and wicked deeds behind the scenes. It was something that he and his 2 brothers were very aware of. He still remembers the members of the Lian family he has killed in the past. Some of them used demonic tools to commit their atrocious inhumane deeds. Song Donglai then inhaled deeply to calm down his restlessness and sneered back, "Who'll live or die today is still hard to say now. Do you think we are afraid of you since you've set up a trap here?" shouted Lianbai as he ferociously laughed. "Where are those 2 fuckers beside you? Ao Wei and Gong Quan? Make them roll out too." Not far away from them, Gong Quan came with a dozen of his confidants. Yet he didn't even spare a glance to the aggressive and threatening Lianbai's group, and kept observing and sensing the air fluctuations in the surroundings with full vigilance. For him, the hidden assassin he just encountered was the most dangerous existence. Halfway up the hillside, Tang Xiu wore a profound expression and his eyes kept lingering on the Lian family. Several hundreds of meters of distance were not far to him, and he could sense that the surrounding temperature dropped all of a sudden right as these people arrived. It was like there was some hidden death chi coming from the Lian family's direction. Is it the ghost race, the resentful specters, or one who has cultivated a ghost cultivation technique? It never occurred to him that such an interesting matter would present itself to him. After all, he was only here to watch and observe the battle. All that which has been unfolded piqued his interest as to what other existences Earth had. Not only has he found the traces of immortals and the legacies they left behind, but now has also encountered such a rich death chi. Could it be that a ghost race cultivation technique also exists on Earth? Shuiyu, who stood beside Tang Xiu, also watched as the 2 sides drew their weapons and aimed them at each other. She then asked, "Tang Xiu, which side do you think is more powerful?" "Dong Donglai and his people will definitely die this time if there's no unforeseen accident," answered Tang Xiu. "Is it because of those 2 old men?" asked Shuiyu in surprise. "That's right." Tang Xiu nodded and explained, "I've seen the ancestors of some families under the occult sect. They're so decrepit and just half a step from their grave, yet they possess horrifying strength. Nearly all of them are martial artists who have embarked on the cultivation path. Although most of them don't have any cultivation techniques, making it nearly impossible to break through the foundation establishment stage, many of them could still contend with those at the foundation establishment stage just by their chi refining stage cultivation." "So, are you really not going to help Boss Song?" asked Shuiyu. No, Tang Xiu shook his head and said, "Song Donglai actually possesses great talent. He reached the martial art grandmaster level at less than 50 years old. It's not an easy feat to achieve. This time, he wants to take advantage of the blood python array to chance upon the opportunity with his two brothers, an endeavor they must only rely on themselves with, no less. Shuiyu didn't ask again, yet she was mulling over some thoughts inside her mind. Tang Xiu turned to look at her and said again, "Do you think I should help him because I, at least, are familiar with him?"
Yeah.
"He's very respectful to you." Shuiyu nodded. Tang Xiu shook his head and said, "There was once a time when countless people respected me. Those who once begged for my help were too many to count, just like the school of fishes that crossed the river. I also could have saved countless people if I wanted to, yet I just watched them die. It's not that I have a heart made of stone, but it was because the heavenly Tao is merciless and ruthless. Ever since I set my foot on the cultivation path, I've been struggling and fighting on my own, though of course, there have been some exceptions to the case, regardless." "Which exceptions?" asked Shuiyu. Tang Xiu smiled and said, "They are those whom I care about. Even if they are cripples or the so-called dregs on the cultivation path and are unwilling to get into danger, I will always help them. I'll provide them all the cultivation techniques, resources, and experiences. I'll also guarantee their safety." "I suddenly feel that I'm very lucky," said Shuiyu softly. "You know, luck is oftentimes an important factor in success," said Tang Xiu with a chuckle. In Green Lake Agricola, the Lian family's ancestor, Lian Wenxin, slowly walked to Lian Bai's side and likewise watched the people in front of him as though they were already dead. He slowly took out some black ink from his green long robe and said in a grim voice, "What a waste of a quarrel, using just words. Just annihilate all the enemies today and don't delay their move to reincarnation." Lian Bai unsheathed his saber and shouted ferociously, "Kill them all." Dozens of meters away, Boss Huang and his more than 20 henchmen were originally harboring the thought of watching the fun, even though they were also a bit restless. However, when the Lian family's ancestor spoke, a chilling current seeped into their mind, sending a chill down their spines. The combat between martial artists always involved the glints and flashes of cold steel with a foul wind and a rain of blood in its wake. When arms were flying and blood splashing and the two sides suffered casualties and injuries during the fight, Boss Huang and his henchmen felt as though they were falling into ice holes, filled by a fear that nearly made them scream out. Li Chang suddenly grabbed Boss Huang and said in a pressed voice, "Boss, tell your men to help my cousin quickly. Otherwise, the other party will probably not let us leave if he gets defeated." Boss Huang was hardly able to turn head as he looked at Li Chang with a face full of fear, saying, "These people are from the martial world. How can I help them? Don't tell me you want me to send them to their deaths? Even if they can only gang up against one man, that's still great merit as long as they can bring down some of them," said Li Chang hurriedly. "Besides, I must take you to hide somewhere right away. If there are too many people with us, we'll be easily exposed even if we're hiding." Boss Huang's lips squirmed a few times and he immediately shouted, "All of you, go there and help Boss Song. Any one of you who can injure those people, I'll reward you 1,000,000 yuan. 2,000,000 yuan for whoever can kill one of them. Hurry up. People do say that there will always be one who is brave enough to take the risks if the rewards are generous enough." These rabbles were henchmen, gangsters raised by Boss Huang himself. They usually help Boss Huang to deal with some unspeakable shady deals, which has earned them tens of thousand yuan each time. It was not a small amount of money in and of itself, but when they heard Boss Huang's promise, their eyes shined brightly. Although they realized that they were far from being a match for those people, they were actually smart enough to gang up against one of them. The number of men under Song Donglai was many times more than those of the Lian families. Although the gap of strength between them and the Lian family's people was quite big, the number of people was indeed able to make up for the differences in individual combat prowess, albeit barely. More than 20 hooligans divided into 3 groups and ganged up on the 3 experts from the Lian family quickly. Pew, pew, pew. With a fluctuation in the air, Xiaoye soundlessly appeared next to the scar-faced big man, while his sharp dagger pierced the latter's stomach like a venomous snake. After pulling out the dagger, he moved lightning fast and killed the other 3 rebels. Gunshots. Amid the chaotic scene of battle, the experts of Lien family who had the upper hand and were dominating the battle had their complexions slightly changed. They could clearly hear the faint gunshots, while some of them who were proficient in firearms were aware that it was not coming from ordinary pistols, but from a very powerful sniper rifle. Xiao Ye. Deal with those snipers, shouted Lien Bai after his saber cleaved down the enemy and turned to glance around. Cruer Python. Ao Wei, who had yet to make an appearance on the stage, appeared from the direction of the lakelet. Behind him were strong stocky men lifting a big steel cage, 2 meters in width and height, dashing into the fray. As they were closing on the fighting crowd, Ao Wei ferociously roared and cleaved the chain outside the steel cage and opened its door. Whoosh! A more than 3 meters long blood-colored cruer python violently raged and slithered out of the cage. Its mouth opened, exhibiting its chilling, cold fangs. At the moment it flashed behind a member of the Lien family and instantly bit on the left side of his neck. Aarg! A horrifying and shrill scream came from the man. The cruer python didn't stay still and flung toward the other member of the Liens. Fucking asshole. The Lien family's ancestor, Lien Wentian, who had just killed several men under Song Donglai, noticed the bloody-colored python who had just appeared and already killed 2 of his family members. He immediately wielded a longsword and hurled lightning fast towards the cruer python. He had encountered such a ferocious ominous beast before, so he had no fear in facing it. The battle between the cruer python and Lin Wentian caused the spot to be devoid from anyone else. The anaconda-like cruer python was far more powerful than all of the fierce beasts Lin Wentian had killed before. At the moment when a man and a beast were deadlocked in their fight, Lien Wenxin, who had killed a dozen people, finally opened the dark ink bottle in his hand and instantly threw it into the air. Soul Guardian, Devour. Lien Wenxin rose up into the air and, as his roar echoed around, the black ink bottle opened and unleashed a murky grayish weapon all of a sudden. At the same time, the 9 fetuses of 100 Ghost streamer the size of a palm instantly appeared from the black bottle, while the gushing eddy that came out with it grew bigger and stronger. Halfway up the hill, Tang Shou's complexion suddenly changed greatly. His pupils contracted, and disbelief filled them as he could sense the thick death chi repeatedly surging out at the moment the 9 fetuses of 100 Ghost streamer, unleashed into the air. The Ghost Race tool. He easily recognized this 9 fetuses of 100 Ghost streamer, since it radiated a very powerful ghost's aura containing the grief of the souls within it. What is this ghost device? Asked Shuiyu confused. Tang Shou's eyes were flickering, containing some killing intent within them. He replied with a heavy voice. It's a device that uses human souls, the souls of those who have been inhumanely tortured with countless cruel and brutal methods. Their souls then turn into wraiths before they get absorbed into this ghost device, which then forms it into a powerful weapon. This ghost streamer has at least devoured several hundred human souls, all of them which were tortured inhumanely before they got murdered, making their souls still even be tormented now. That evil. Shuiyu exclaimed, isn't that the likes of the demon in the legends? True. There's not much of a difference between ghost and demonic tools, to begin with. Tang Shou nodded and said, both are just 2 forms of power, but they are a similarly diabolical evil object. This Lien family is under the occult sect on the surface. I didn't expect that some of them have refined such a ghost device. This makes it obvious that this family is wicked. So, what should we do? Asked Shuiyu quickly. What should we do? Humph. What other than making sure whether this ghost device was made or was just refined by the Lien family, snorted Tang Shou coldly. If they are the ones who did that, or by something else, humph, then they are damned. All the deceased souls, even the souls of the Lien family's deceased members, all must have been swallowed inside that ghost device. After he said that, Tang Shou's figure instantly flew down.